So here's a house for you in Colts, New Jersey. It's a nice house. I don't have all the facts on it, but I saw it on the MLS this morning. So it sits on, I think, 1.36 acres. That's the neighbor's house. For those of you not familiar with Colts, it's money. There's quite a bit of money around here. I don't know what the most expensive house sells for in Colts, but it's got to be above 15 million. The neighborhood I'm in is really nice. The house caught my eye here in Colts because in the listing it says, the realtor says that it's been tenant occupied for the past year and it needs some TLC and it's being sold as is. So a handyman special in Colts, that's going to catch my eye. The list price is $890,000. Definitely outside my sweet spot of between 150 and 250,000. However, I wanted to make a little video about buying big ticket items or big ticket houses and what you could do with them. If you're like me, you watch DIY quite a bit. And there's that couple in California, that good-looking couple. And they go in and they buy a $1 million house. And they put $300,000 worth of renovations. And they put top-of-the-line stuff in there. And then they sell it for $2 million in like 3 days. And then they get their check within like 3 hours. And it's a little unrealistic. I'm not that familiar with California, but I don't know if they really sell like that. So here in Colts, $890,000 purchase price. It's assessed for, what's it assessed for? $956,000. That right there tells me that this has room for some improvements. It can absorb some costs. Usually the assessment is lower than the actual value. So $956,000 being sold for $890,000. What can we do with this house? In the listing, the realtor says that it needs some TLC and even gives a price of $50,000 for renovations. I'm not taking $50,000 at face value because, I mean, the realtor has a motive to sell it. So when I see 50, then I think it's probably closer to 75 or 100,000. So I couldn't do the research on this house like I would on a house that I was really into as far as running comps, because the comps around here are a little bit more difficult to obtain. Because from my initial impression of this neighborhood, that house is one of the nicest houses in this neighborhood, so you'd have to go outside the neighborhood to get some comps. So anything I say is going to be speculative. It's going to be a gamble, but you know I love gambling. So what could you do with this house? What could I do with this house? Let's say you get it for $850,000, because it might be overpriced at $890,000 if it's as is. Has an in-ground pool, 1.36 acres. It doesn't have the square feet, but I'm guesstimating 4,000 plus square feet. You go in there and let's say you put $100,000 in, you're all in for $1 million. That's taking closing costs, carrying costs into consideration. What could you sell a property for in Colts? Well, it's all over the board. When I make videos about real estate investing, I think that the properties I go for, it's more like investing, because that risk factor that you would have on this house wouldn't be there. And here's the reasoning. If I go in, like the Brown house, matter of fact, we're supposed to close on the Brown house Monday. On the Brown house, I already know that that house is not going to sell for $400,000 or $500,000 because there's nothing else in the area for that amount. I'm getting it for $150,000. So, even putting $100,000 worth of work into that house, which I'm not going to, there's still such a nice profit there. There's a nice cushion that it just gives me the warm fuzzies. So it's really not gambling, it's investing. On this Colts house, let's say you're all in, like I said, for $1 million. Can you put it on the market and sell it for 1.3? It's going to be pushing it. If the market stays the way it is right now and the market is hot, could you sell for 1.2? I think that's kind of reasonable, but here's what you got going against you. What's the market for houses over $1 million? There is a market for it. I'm not saying that there's not. But it's not the same market as people that are looking for $300,000-$400,000 houses. So let's say you put on that market for 1.25. You got a realtor. You're going to have to pay 4% commission going out. So let's just say $50,000 right there. You got some carrying costs because the market's going to be not nearly as big as a $300,000-$400,000 house. So the house sits on the market for 4 or 5 months. That's taken into consideration 60 days worth of closing. So you get a contract after a month or two, and then there's 60, 90 days worth of closing time. Why there's so much time, I have no idea. So you got 5 months of carrying costs if you didn't come in with cash. So if you got $1 million cash, you want to have those carrying costs. But if you got carrying costs on this size of a house for 5 months, you got the realtor commission of $50,000. Let's just take $100,000 right off the top, and you sell it for 1.2. So you're going to make $100,000 profit. $100,000 is not chump change. I'm not saying that it is. However, to make $100,000 on this size of a house with this risk and those carrying costs, compared to buying a house for $150,000 or $200,000 and making $100,000, it's not a real attractive thing for me. Now, when I look at the Colts Neck house, I also think about what if I was going to move into the house. Now, if I was going to move into the house, I'd feel a little bit better because it could absorb like a lot of the top of the line things that I would want to put in the house. So let's say you're going to put a Viking range in, and you're going to have a pool house by the pool. And later on you want to sell it in a few years. I think it could absorb those costs, which means I think you can get your money back for those high-end things. On the houses that I typically do, you wouldn't be able to. So I just wanted to make a video because if you are thinking about buying in a high price area as a flip, then those are some things I would take into consideration if I was you. And eventually I'm going to get into it because there are some pros to getting into a property with this price point also. I don't think that the buyers are as nitpicky. I don't know if nitpicky is the word. I think you got some more savvy buyers buying in this price range, and they're looking for the high quality stuff, and they're not nitpicking on some little things. So there are some pros to selling high ticket items. I'm just not there yet.